There is no America. There is no democracy. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business. And I have chosen you to preach this evangel.
For all my free market healthcare robbing, stock stealing, retirement fund fucking with niggas. Fuck you little credit card scamming, jewelry stealing, crack selling, liquor store robbing motherfuckers. Shout to the homies, Carnegie, OG, Willie Randolph Hearst, Baruch, Rockefeller, the real Rockefeller, my main bitch Leona, pour out a little Louis the 13th. Scott Rothstein, Jack Abramoff, hold your head. My Rothschild niggas, let's get this money. I spend my day peppering America overseas. Pension for the workers, nigga, please. Embezzlement, etiquette, private settlement. I'm better with Confederate rhetoric from my mansion in Connecticut. Foreclose a big close out the tenement. I twist words like a speech impediment. I hope you got good credit, bitch. If not, better get a new job with benefits. While I play golf with niggas and get cheddar with. New money buys brand new carrots. My old money bunch of great grandparents. You got grills in your mouth, I ain't mad at you. I own every gold mine in South Africa. Thanks, baby, you made me $1 billion. Plus, I own a building for each one of my children's children.
Good evening, everyone. This is Chris J. here at Voice for Band Radio. I am your host tonight, and I will be talking again just really assorted topics. We look back today. Today is December 3rd, 2017. We look back a year ago. We had around this time, I think the anniversary passed like last week, was Fidel Castro's passing after being at 90 years old. I guess we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about the Bitcoin going to 10,000, which is crazy because I remember when Bitcoin first became. I remember when Bitcoin was finally, hitting the world stage back in 2013, and there was the craze about it, and I thought, it's probably already reached, that everybody now knows about it. It's probably reached its zenith. But it's like if I would have invested in Bitcoin in 2013, the amount of money that I would have made by now would have been insane. I think it was going for at that point, a few hundred for a Bitcoin, and now they're up to around 10,000 Bitcoin. So, literally the money's went up 20, 30 times, and I wonder when is this bubble finally going to burst for the Bitcoin. These electronic currency, which, the thing is that I thought that you would think that the concept of trying to get away from currency that's not backed by really anything in the end would be kind of negated. This would not be much of anything to people that are, trying to get away from fiat currency. You think that ultimately gold, the stuff that actually has always had value would have a lot of value, and Bitcoin would not get a lot of interest. It's surprising that Bitcoin is getting interest from people from all around the world, it seems like. And you have people that are predicting spectacular growth from this point in the future. This 10,000 mark is definitely a crazy venture for the Bitcoin, and a big mark. And, to me, the cryptocurrency, I have a little bit of skepticism about the cryptocurrency just because it seems like, again, it is kind of a repeat of the previous problems of most of the currencies, fiat currencies, is that ultimately they have no real value. In the end, they are just a currency. They're not a money. They're not backed by metal. They're not backed by any kind of natural resources or anything like that. They're just backed by they're just backed by a faith in that unit of currency having value. So Bitcoin, I still remain skeptical. I feel like there's this bubble, but every time I get skeptical, every time that I really start to question the legitimacy of the Bitcoin, it seems to prove me wrong. And the Bitcoin skyrockets the next day or something like that, and I see the Bitcoin is now up to $10,000. Holy shit! Where did this happen? The Bitcoin is one of the Bitcoin's rise to the stage is one of the biggest developments, I guess, economically in really the 21st century. And it's like this cryptocurrency. It's not backed by any state, not backed by any country. And now, I mean, for a while there, a lot of people didn't even know about it. For the first few years, Bitcoin was just Bitcoin's probably been around since like 2010, and now that's starting to actually be accepted in a lot of places. I see a lot of people are now starting to have the digital wallets on Bitcoin, partially because my own skepticism from Bitcoin is I'd much rather invest in gold. If anything, I may invest in the ruble, which is soon probably going to be backed by gold. But the Bitcoin has never really aroused my interest beyond a simple, maybe a little turn of the head at looking at what the Bitcoin and what it might, what kind of investment that might be. But to me, Bitcoin's a little bit, Bitcoin to me seems a little bit sketchy. I mean, this idea of this online currency, I feel like in a way it could be a major psyop. Just to see, people that are thinking that way, to see how, how much people would buy into a trend, how much money. I've seen conspiracy theories like that Bitcoin is actually kind of like a psyop. It's not really a real currency. It's not really a real thing, and that the people that invented it were, just part of the establishment, kind of testing the waters. I don't know if I really buy into that, but what I do believe is to me that the skepticism of global currencies all around, with people with the big veil being pulled, and finally the Wizard of Oz, his face has been shown to the world, and realize there's nothing there. It's just a little man controlling everything. And, that little man in this case might be Mr. Rothschild. Well, the whole illusion of the United States' economic strengths is really just on their financial grip of the country. That their financial grip of the country has made this their manipulation of the world markets, this dollar, has made this omnipresent, scary entity that we know as the United States empire. People are starting to realize it's not that powerful, and it's very fragile, actually. And now people are finding ways to circumvent the economic empire of the United States and the global Zionists and the IMF, the World Bank. People are starting to make alternative countries are banding together. And what has happened is, instead of centralization, that's decentralization that seems to be happening around the world with the creation of different blocks, economic blocks. You have the UNISOR, you have BRICS, you have at one point the African Union was wanting to make their own union, but they killed Gaddafi prior to being able to do that. Now you have kind of the Southeast Asian countries are kind of going independent as well. That it's no longer as easy as to maintain when it was the East and West bloc, back in the Cold War days. That they could control both sides of the Cold War easily, and pretty much control most of them. So nowadays, the world seems to be going towards a more multipolar world, like Vladimir Putin has envisioned for the world. And I think this is this is where modern day Russia differs from the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union really pushed the idea of that, at one point, this idea of a unipolar power that must be coming from Moscow. And the United States government has never really differed from that. That the freedom originates from Washington D.C. mentality. Now Russia of today has taken more of the stance that countries and regions should be able to determine their sovereignty, and that not every country has to follow the Russian way. Like back in the Soviet Union, every country that seemed to be that was allied with the Soviet Union, Soviet communist model was pushed very heavily on them, and for a lot of countries it did not work out very well. There were some other countries that actually remained allied with the Soviet Union and worked out well because they did tweaks to the Soviet economic model, to Soviet political model. So nowadays, the multipolar world that we live in, or what it's turned into, we don't live in yet. This is the battle, and the New World Order wants us to live in a unipolar world where all power originates from the World Bank, the IMF, the Rothschild, and just vaguely say them, is that they want to be the one that are behind. They want to be the puppet master controlling everything. So that's the difference between. That's what this is about. This is what part of this demonization towards Russia is because they are battling against the idea of the unipolar world, of the New World Order. Is that, and I call it the unipolar world a little bit more in this because it seems to be a term that's more used at the geopolitical stage. The New World Order, they've kind of demonized that word. Or it should be demonized. New World Order. I mean, they have demonized people that use that word and make us seem like we're crazy conspiracy theorists that are sitting in our basement screaming at lizardmen. The thing is that that's not the case at all. As far as saying, is that we're a bunch of people in basements screaming about lizardmen from Mars. We're not, we're really, way more geopolitically aware than the average people that talk about this New World Order. They understand the unipolar world and the idea of, that they want to put all the power coming from one central authority. Whether that's, and really ultimately when that boils down to, it's the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, New World Order, and then, I guess you go from a political spectrum, is that really when it comes to Washington, D.C. is not the top of the chain when it comes to who has the power. Above them is Tel Aviv, and then above Tel Aviv is the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, that kind of thing. So really, in a way, the real political battle in this world is not between Moscow and the United States. It's more between Moscow and Tel Aviv, I guess you could say. Which, if you saw, the United States just recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, which, by the way, the United States is just the first, I think it's the first country to do it since, I think, Romania. I think was the only country ever to recognize it, Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Besides, I think, Romania, most of the world has avoided that very touchy subject, and I feel like this is just really much pouring gasoline on the entire situation over there. But ultimately, Jerusalem and Tel Aviv are, because there is no capital of Israel, because it's not a legitimate state. If people understand that, then we can have some real change in the United States when we can finally break free of that parasitic nation that sucked us dry for the last it's been last 70 years. While they've killed 5.1 million Palestinians with our dollars, it's absolutely absurd that this Holocaust is not even mentioned in our textbooks and our media all across our society. And if you mention this Holocaust, you're considered anti-Semitic. You're considered a Nazi. All these labels get thrown at you that you're and if you start mentioning about forget about it, if you start mentioning online anywhere about the Soviet Union's origins and what happened in 1917 in Russia, just imagine you can just see what all the people they start throwing out the words. It's funny because a lot of the traditional internet Marxist Leninist types and stuff, they throw out that word reactionary a lot. Anybody of a left leaning that doesn't belong to their political very one-sided view of the world is a reactionary. It is but ultimately they're the reactionaries in a way by the way they. It seems like they react so quickly. Anything that it said, oh, you're a bigot, you're a Nazi for saying that, and then it's like, oh, you're fucking fascist, and they throw that out at people that are not fascists. It's like, come on, it's pretty far from the truth, don't you think? And it's that these. And this is, I'm talking about like even the alt-right, some of them will call, you have libertarians that, do not support Trump, as communists and Marxists, but we're obviously, libertarians and communists, it's funny how on the internet they, have almost been branded together in the last year or so, and before that, they're the bitterest of enemies just not too long ago. I guess, it's weird how, it's kind of, I guess you'd say the libertarians have kind of been pushed, they're no longer, I guess you could say, as mainstream as in ways they used to be. Well, I should say that the fascists are no longer on the fringes of the internet like they used to be 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Now they've kind of popped up into the mainstream of the internet. And, I'm not saying everybody that, posts Pepe memes or something like that is a fascist or anything like that, but I'm saying is that, the legitimate, skinhead and stuff like that, the world, which, it's really kind of exaggerated by the Zionists to kind of like to make that, put that out there, in order to, justify their own, atrocities, and try to make it seem like the possibility of a repeat of atrocities against Jewish people, is very possible when, in reality, they're the ones. I shouldn't say they as the Jewish people, but I'm saying Israel, because not all Jewish people support Israel. But I should say the Israeli people the Israeli government, I should say more accurately, are committing genocide. Are committing genocide in Palestine. By the way, if anybody wants to call in, the call-in number tonight is going to be 718-717-8296. 718-717-8296. You're at Voice Urban Radio. You're on UCY.tv. Here's what I was looking at earlier, just like 15 minutes ago. I was looking at this Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin, they went past 10,000. It looks like it's 11,500. Now, there's been some pretty crazy speculation. There's people saying that it will go up to $500,000. It did go up $500 in 1 hour. The top 11,500 now. Bitcoin's is now the new hot thing. Everybody seems to want to get their hands on it. I mean, I remember when Bitcoin wasn't even talked about 3 years ago. And when I first started doing this radio show, Bitcoin was just I just found out a bit about Bitcoin, and I thought that Bitcoin really, I never thought it would get to this point, because I thought that they would keep it down. The bankers, the people that are trying to control the currencies of the world would not allow the Bitcoin ever to get to the kind of success as today. Now Bitcoin is. If you would have bought Bitcoins like in 2012, you could have made like 100 times your money. If you would have just bought 100 Bitcoins, you could have made like $10,000. I mean, $100 a Bitcoin. So like one Bitcoin. Anybody that invested like real money in Bitcoin, like put down a good portion of maybe like their life savings into a 10,000, they would have made like $1 million. I thought they would have invested like 5 years ago, which is absolutely nuts when you think about that. That people could have went from working class to rich off of that investment, because this is like this is one of the most crazy, insane economic things that has ever I guess you'd say it's an anomaly, and that's why it makes me think that this almost has to be like has to be a psyop of some kind. And something weird is happening here, and I'm not sure if this is preluding some kind of dollar collapse, which I could definitely see happening. That as I said, the mask hasn't been unveiled in the petrodollar, and this what used to be seen as standard of the world, the petrodollar, it is now people realizing that it's the dollar is just backed. That's all it's backed by is by what's traded. And I think the dollars are starting to. People don't want to have those dollars anymore. People want to trade in yuan. They want to trade in rubles. They don't want to trade in the currency that's going to be soon obsolete. And I know it's weird saying it, but the ruble, or I mean the dollar being obsolete is a very big possibility, I think, in the next couple of years. I think this aforementioned dollar collapse that a lot of people have been talking about, a lot of economists and a lot of predictors have been saying that it's going to happen. I think, from what they point, I think it's going to happen around 2020. I think we got about 3 years left, and because the dollar right now is on life support. But beginning, let's see, it says that at 11 o'clock UTC, I think that's like 4 o'clock Eastern data, or it says, this was 11 hours ago, it's going to have been 4 o'clock Eastern, but it says CoinDesk, Bitcoin price increased from 11,115 to 11,655 by the end of the hour. Bitcoin is up nearly 7% on the day, rising more than $700 from an average opening of 10,895 across global exchanges. Was to push the total value of all cryptographic assets once again neared $350 billion, according to data provider CoinMarketCap. And while the market has yet to cross the total, a quick look at the charts reveals gains from across available assets. At first time, each of the top 10 coins by market capitalization were in the green, with 2 protocols that previously forked from Bitcoin posting double-digit gains as well. For example, Bitcoin Cash was once again closing in on its all-time highs at $1,621. The price was more than 12% on the day, while Bitcoin Gold was up nearly 13% and trading at $340. Still, it's not clear whether markets believe Bitcoin can push much higher in the short term, given the more than 1,000% gain seen in 2017. So 1,000%, that's a 10%, 10 times gains. So at the beginning of this year, it was only at about $1,000. Now it's about $10,000. It's absolutely insane. But it looks like there's other cryptocurrencies, that are coming about. The Russia and the BRICS, I think, said they're going to make some kind of cryptocurrency as well. And the only thing is, I don't know how Bitcoin has gotten quite to this level, though, because I'm trying to think. I've seen places where Bitcoin has been, you're able to use Bitcoin, but it's not like I see every place. It's like I don't see all kinds of retailers where you can use Bitcoin as a form of payment. It doesn't seem to be the norm, at least. And I've heard a few people talk about it, but I have not known too many people that were actually and I think I've actually, one time I worked at a store and there was actually somebody trying to use Bitcoin there, which we did not accept. I don't think, because Bitcoin, we accept like the 4 major ones. We didn't accept the Bitcoin. I think this is like I said, something big's happening, and whether this is the catalyst that starts a major dollar collapse, I think that the world's in a really the dollar's kind of a state of limbo at this point, and this is like stuff like this is the indicator on the dollar. It's like the gold going up, Bitcoin going up, Bitcoin up to 11,700. They're not the only ones. It's just Bitcoin. It's a all around. It's an all around a change on the world markets, on the economy right now, and I think this is one of the most fascinating. It's one of the most fascinating stories of the last or so. We haven't had a whole lot really happen besides some Trump shenanigans, stuff like that. The Bitcoin's been one of the most fascinating things to watch. There's been a whole lot of the talk, I guess, from Syria. Well, besides one major thing, which is I saw Netanyahu pretty much was calling on Congress to make a decision on the Iran by 20. So this is really, that's Netanyahu starting to call for something like that. And he actually gets a timetable. It makes me think that something's going to happen by February 2018. That's not just going to be that Netanyahu is not just blowing smoke. There is something to this, and something not normal that's going on at the world stage. And like I said, is everything coming together: the dollar collapse, the building up towards a world war. It's getting to a very crucial, critical point in the history of the United States. And I know it seems weird with the president in charge, but just remember this corporate spokesman in America. The president in charge during all this is going to be Donald J. Trump. Also, I didn't really predict this either. I thought that I know I said from 2013. Sorry, everyone, I lost the connection there. I'm not sure. My phone just pretty much like reset, and sorry, I was off the air there for about 2 minutes. What I was just saying is that the big, like $50 or whatever. Yeah, it'd be cool to just get my hands on. And they put like up $2 into a Bitcoin or something like that, and I was like, now I look back on that, how much money that'd be. Just have, if you had 1/25th of a Bitcoin right now, that would be, let's see, $400, $500 almost. Just off a $2 investment back then. I mean, that is absurd. The kind of gains, and I think I've read that if you just put like $1 into a Bitcoin at, I think there was a point where it was like $1 when it first came out, like 2010. But if you put like just like $10 back then, you would have like $100,000 nowadays. I mean, but of course, that was when no one knew what Bitcoin existed. It was kind of limited to people that knew about Bitcoin. I think in like 2013, 2012. I think I found out about Bitcoin in 2013. I remember when they first started getting accepted in places, and now it's so mainstream everywhere, and people are saying, I mean, I can't believe McAfee called that a while ago too about the Bitcoin going to 500,000. I don't know if he's right about that, if there's going to be a bubble, but I could imagine, that people, what will even happen, how people react if it goes to $500,000, per Bitcoin. 500,000 would mean that you just need to have, 1/500th to have $1,000. I mean, that would be when Bitcoins were 500. Just put $1 investment, and if it goes to 500,000, now that's $1,000. I mean, that was not that long ago. I mean, that was just $500. It was that's about 2 years ago or so, and at the rate that's going now, I mean, it looks like it could be just a year or so, and we could be talking about McAfee's numbers. I mean, they went up $500 in like 12 hours today. In other news, our former producer here at Voice of Brown Radio, Vince Easley, was over at the Bundy trials. I saw, it looks like they were released, I think at least temporarily, the Bundy family. They're having the Bundy trials out in Las Vegas, Nevada, and he spoke about it for a little bit, on the last show, but he mainly talks about the Las Vegas shooting and this time frame. But yeah, he's still doing that. That was that was over like months ago. I think that looks like they are. I'm not sure if it's for temporarily or how long they'll actually be out. I know they're facing very severe charges of federal, like federal occupation of land, all the like stuff like pretty much that kind of stuff. Like if you you could be there for 40 years or so. These people might lives in prisons as what they're at least trying to do to them. That's pretty wrong. Ultimately, these people they took a stand to the government and wanted to show their dissatisfaction and this encroaching on these people's ways of life out there, and there are very few independent farmers out there. The federal government, that are hypocrisy, that they go after the Bundys, but they would not go after the, they won't go after real criminals. They wouldn't go after the, people like Hillary Clinton, the Clinton family, the Clinton Foundation. They won't go after Dick Cheney and Halliburton. Another, you could say another criminal is probably that some of the people really, I would say, even is that the entirety of Congress is a criminal organization that deserves to get arrested. and a lot of them killed. Honestly, I mean, I think that our government, these are scumbags. But I would say, I'm more of a proponent of life imprisonment, hard labor, that type of thing for, these people that are, done, war crimes and stuff like that. I'm kind of in favor of that. Some people call it gulag. I don't know if gulag is a good word because to associate with Stalin, even though I think gulag was used before Stalin. But that's always the jokes on the internet is that the communists and stuff. I always say about it is like gulag for you and stuff like that. It's where the Bundy Ranch. They posted the picture. Let's see. I want to see this can of worms they want to open. It's like, how does America, the freest country on the planet, have the highest incarceration rate? Let's see if people actually. It's like, because some people can't handle the responsibility that goes along with freedom. Are some people in jail unjustly? Yes, but most of the people committing crimes against the rest of a buying system. Yeah, upset that like 50% of them committed non-violent drug offenses. So I don't really think the people that commit non-violent drug offenses deserve to be in prison long term. Especially for use. Let's see. I don't see any political prisoners on your list. Just a bunch of asswipes and cretins who can't follow the law. Oh, this is fun watching. Let's see. Because said freedom reflects more on capitalism that allows the privatization of prison for profit and a lobby that pushes to incarcerate everyone, even though deserving for the most of petty offenses. It's all for profit and punishment or rehabilitation. Now that's actually more correct. Pretty spot on, actually. Politics. Somebody says it's not capitalism, politics. And somebody says both. That's more a ultimately the corporate and state powers merged, or is the private sector and the corporate power are pretty much two the same in this country. And that's the Mussolini described it. The definition of fascism is the merger of corporate and state power. There's fascism is I don't know. There's a lot of people that are proponents of it. Say that it's to me. Yes, mainstream capitalism, mainstream communism, both ideologies I oppose. That's why I consider myself more. Fascism to me though is a bastardized version of nationalism, which ultimately what it does is put the corporate it uses nationalism as an excuse to give corporations more power. I do believe in true nationalism in its truest form, and I don't care what people have to say. That this I guess last couple of years it's a little bit of a revealing, I guess, is that I more discovering of what really about politically, and before I would have said that nationalism is ugly, it's directly connected to fascism, but to me, nationalism means also a little bit different than it used to mean for me. It used to mean to me it was police state, fascism, martial law, that kind of thing. It's all associated with nationalism. But now I just realized it's really just a love for your country. And, to me, fighting against the powers that wish to usurp power from the people of your country. Your country is the nation, it's family, it's the land, and then ultimately these people that are at the World Bank, IMF, these Rothschilds and Zionists, they are they don't take value in these kind of things. They push degeneracy on the West. They push they tried to make a world without borders, and destroy the concept of nation. They tried to they try to eradicate traditional thought. They try to replace it with all this these, I guess you could say, it's almost like a new age ideologies in a way, you could say. Or what I mean by that is like the modern feminism. This you could see this evident and from the people in the social justice warriors that on the internet. They kind of reflect the these people that are of the of these ideologies that have been planted in the people of the West. I guess you could say as well, they've also pushed, the Zionists, they've pushed ideologies that have wiped out, entire, periods of history in countries. Old Russia was practically, eliminated for many years under the Soviet Union after what they financed in 1917. It's the Bolshevik Revolution. How many people died after the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia? Too many. Tens of millions of people perished after the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. It was one of the biggest human disasters in history. And, I would say, Solzhenitsyn, I would say that you might exaggerate on some stuff, and the Solzhenitsyn also wasn't so accurate on other things. But, I think there's a reason why Putin kind of, I think Putin helped bring Solzhenitsyn back to being a kind of like a national hero rather than almost like a menace like he was seen in many years in the Soviet Union. Solzhenitsyn, he said 66 million Russians died after the Bolshevik Revolution. Well, I think that number might be a little bit high. I definitely believe it's at least 30 million. Because we know Stalin probably killed somewhere upwards of around 30 million people, which makes Adolf Hitler killed somewhere between 11 to 17. I see different numbers, seems like quite a bit, but 11 million. I think 11 million if you just count. I think the citizens at home. It's 6 million Jews plus 5 million other people. 11 million people total. And then all the other people, the millions of people that were killed, and other people killed more too. But Stalin, to top that, looks like, and then Mao, top that, 45 million, biggest mass murderer in history. When it comes to at least leaders, you don't count the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, people behind the scenes. Well, you look at Mao and the people behind Mao with a this had a very a lot of European Jewish people were the people that would end up in the Communist Party of China. I mean, one of like their senior members was a European Jewish guy. This is I think what was it? I know Israel Epstein or something like that was one of the most powerful people in the Communist Party of China. I know at one point I think it was Mao. It was one of the most powerful people in China, and this is something that is not talked about in history books about this anomaly. And a country that you don't sick of too much Western stuff. Well, they have this Hindenburg. He had I think what was that other guy, Slavosky, Epstein. It was definitely there was something definitely very fishy about the whole Chinese thing. Now I think China, I don't know if they've gone over the Maoist era. Maybe they've morphed into something a little bit better, or maybe it's just a remainder of it. The mayors as old around Mao are gone. I know Epstein was there all the way to 2005. I think. I mean, some of these people were there from the. They weren't just there for all the way up to the 70s when Mao died. They were there way past that. They were there into the into the 2000s, and this is the people that were there all the way from the revolution in 1949. when it came to the Bolshevik Revolution, it was a little bit different. People from the beginning didn't really stay around. They got purged by Stalin. I think around, most of the people got purged by Stalin. The only people that were left over were Molotov and Stalin were the only original Bolsheviks that were still around after 1941. By the way, if anybody wants to call in last minute, the last time I put out the number, it's going to be 718-717-8296, 718-717-8296. Here at Voice of Rebellion Radio, getting controversial again, talking about, Israel, Zionism, that type of thing. I wonder if how long it will be before I'll have my name, put in the SPLC or ADL or something like that. The Southern Poverty Law Center. Those are some fine people. They always pretty sure they've put a couple of. I think they had. Remember that one guy that I interviewed back in last year was the last show. Vince Easley. They labeled him like a white right wing extremist. They're very quick to label people as such. It's everybody gets labeled as something nowadays, and if you question the norm. And it's really it's a bunch of bullshit. I remember back at school, that people, I think they jumped to conclusions about what I believed in, and they, what I was, against. I think they thought that was against Jewish people altogether. It's I know that some of the posts, the way I went about things was a little bit different back then, and may in a way have got a more even-keeled attitude towards what's the whole radio career and what I did back then. I kind of just agitated for the heck of agitating. It was kind of to me it was almost like fun to get into these big internet arguments. They've gone for an hour or 2 hours. Get blocked or something, and this happened a few times. Especially when Obama, was president. Obama was the cool guy or whatever. Everybody was, people, young people still liked Obama. I know they still do, and I still every now and then when I see a pro-Obama post, I try to remind people about that. I know he was not a great president. He was, he was a warmonger. He was a fascist. It was a terrible president, and it's going to be it's the same way. It's the same way with Trump. There's a lot of people that seem to be under this illusion that Trump is finally trying to do something, and they think that Congress won't let him, but it just uses another part of the game. He's another corporate spokesman of America, and I think it's been shown by Syria. And if we go to war with Iran, it'll be shown by that. The playbook. It's weird how people continue to be captivated by the whole game. And I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't vote for. I couldn't vote for either candidate. I voted for. Unfortunately, I feel kind of silly that who I voted for, and I'm admit it. And I supported her, but Jill Stein's who I voted for in 2016. Next, I hope not to be really in a position where I'm voting at all in 2020. What I hope to be is that the revolution has started, or I'm out of the country or something like that. But maybe the 3 more years. There was that. Remember that piece of writing that me and a former co-host wrote about that? Wrote that the 2020 vision. Talk about in 6 years. I think in 6 years how there'd be a revolution and all this. Towards the rebooting of the country, and kind of laid out the framework. That's kind of like the ideas towards what would be a better America. That was in 2014. Wrote that, and actually got around. I think a little bit is what was it called, 2020 Manifesto or something like that. 2020 Revolution Manifesto. Now I look at it, I'm like, I don't know where we're going to be in 2020. We're going to be a re-election year. It's probably going to be something even I can imagine. They talk about Kanye running for president in 2020. If Kanye versus Trump actually happens, and people actually are voting that, I don't know if this country will have a revolution anytime soon, but I think it will happen. I see the awakening. I see the mass awakening, and I think Trump has helped bring that about, and he's almost accelerated, this discontent with the government. It's 10:50 Eastern. So I just wanted to say also a couple words about Fidel Castro. Talk about that is that he's been a little over a year since he passed, and to the people, there's a lot of people in Miami, the white Cuban exiles. They have their opinion about Fidel Castro, which could be strongly negative. They think that he was an evil dictatorial leader that supposedly committed all kinds of mass atrocities of a massive scale. However, you look at around the different opinions. They take these people as their word for gold. They go to Europe, and they have different opinions. They decide he might not. They think of him maybe not the best leader, or they see of him as somebody that was a very powerful leader. To try to do good things for people. May go to Africa and they see him as they see him as a person that was in solidarity with African liberation movements. And there, you go to New York City and Harlem, they would probably make some of those people still remember the visit with Fidel Castro back in the 80s, that he seemed to actually care about the black community more than our own government did. And he also gave asylum to Saskia Shakur, the Muslims over the Middle East. They remember Cuba's solidarity with the Palestinian cause. Now, to me, I think that the entire entire conversation is so biased in this country. You can't even have a conversation with somebody. You say something against the mainstream narrative on Castro, and Castro actually called out the Bilderberg Committee, but Castro called out the United States supporting ISIS. He spoke a lot of truth as president and as outside of president. And Castro, people spoke a lot of smack about him. But I don't know. To me, I looked legitimate. The morning crowds, 1 year ago in Cuba afterwards. I don't think these people were being forced to. I think there was a lot of people that were legitimately saddened by Fidel Castro's past. And I think also, Justin Trudeau's words, I found them peculiar, but I found that was more as the personal connection that that he might have had to Castro. There was no political connection, but I think that maybe Pierre Trudeau's connection to the family, that might have been partially why, or it might have also been just him trying to reconnect with the more liberal radical crowd, I guess, more like the radical crowd in Cuba. Not Cuba, I mean Canada, that might be a support of him, but there's most of the really radical crowd in Canada does not support Trudeau, and especially for support of the Saudi Arabian regime. This man that talks about he's a feminist and all this other stuff. Trudeau is Trudeau to me is a vanilla Obama. He's Obama, a white version of Obama, and I can't stand him practically. I mean, there was a little bit of hope at first when he was saying he was going to pull out of the war in Syria. It's really different from Obama on a couple things, but immediately when he started saying he was going to take on Putin, I knew something was up, because he was going to out tough guy Putin or whatever. Started going with all that Putin's a bully. And now I'm pretty sure it's still going on about the stuff that Putin has invaded Ukraine. When ultimately, I wouldn't even call it an invasion. What happened in Crimea at this point, this is a decision. The people that the Crimea wanted this. The people it was that, or they would have been facing a regime that hates them. That hates them for being Russian. It'd be like Cuba invading South Florida because the regime that hates. Actually legitimately hates the Latin people strongly. Take power or something like that. I mean, bans the speaker of Spanish in the borders. and sends out mobs in order to go attack people that are ethnically Hispanic. That's what happened in Ukraine. Kiev has used right-wing mobs to do violence against the people of Crimea and eastern Ukraine. Though about Castro is to me, I think that 1 year looking at on Latin America 1 year later, I think Castro is somebody that is misunderstood by a lot of people in the truth movement. I think that they take some of his mistakes in the 60s, and he did have his mistakes, but he did redeem himself in some ways. There was, of course, he did, I think, later mature his views, for example, for the homosexual community in Cuba, towards, and I think this all came because of, partially a main overreaction, in some ways, the degeneracy that was pushed onto Cuba in the 1950s under Fulgencio Batista, is that it became a cesspit with no morality, no culture, really. It was just a playground for the mobsters, for the international bankers, pretty much, set up a dictatorship in Cuba and put their guy, Fulgencio Batista, who, I think that the brothels with the easy access to drugs, it was practically like a large Las Vegas, and Castro wanted to crack down on that. And Batista, by the way, he actually didn't even get captured. He went to Spain, actually, and ended up living there I think he went to Spain. Yeah, he lived there for the rest of his life until 1973 under the fascist dictator Francisco Franco. His own buddy Trujillo actually wouldn't even take him in, and the United States didn't take him in. So he went first Salazar took him in, and then Franco took him in for the remainder of his life. Kind of like how fascist dictator Pinochet ended up going to the UK, I believe, for at least a short time, didn't he? I think he died in Chile, though. I think he died in the UK in 2006, just a few years ago. And there's the people, and then it's funny, the people that shame Castro for being a so-called authoritarian, they'll support at the same time Pinochet for they'll still support Pinochet as I think that he was some kind of bold leader, stood up to the communists or whatnot, and stood up for his people. But reality, he sold everything to corporations, and the United States backed them and put them into power, was to murder 60,000 of the Chilean people. Well, to all that have listened today, thanks for listening to Voice Rebellion Radio. This is Chris J. Signing off here in any marathon that has been today for me. We will be back next Sunday with new content. I don't know if I'll go live next Sunday, but I'll definitely have some kind of new show ready that I'll prepare sometime this week. So stay tuned for that. We have Nathan Frazier coming up here in a couple minutes. So stick around here at ucy.tv. Thanks to all the listeners, and you can check out any of my shows at ucy.tv and archives. Definitely follow me on Facebook, Chris Jackson Rojas. Give that subscribe, or you can send a friend request if you like. Thanks all that have listened today, and you'll have a good night.
Point of no return and nobody can stop it. Malcolm Little when he knelt before Elijah Muhammad, the comet that killed the dinosaurs, changing the earth. They love to criticize, they always say I changed for the worse. Like prescription pills when you misusing them, nigga. The Templar Knights when they took Jerusalem, nigga, and figured out what was buried under Solomon's temple, Al-Aqsa. The name is not coincidental. I know too much, the government is trying to murder me. No coming back like cutting your wrists open vertically. How could the serpent be purposely put in charge of the country? Genetic genetic engineered sickness spread amongst me. My people are so hungry that they attack without reason, like a fucking dog ripping off the hand that feeds him. Immortal technique is treason to the Patriot Act. So come and get me, motherfucker, cause I'm not coming back. This is the point from which I can never return. And if I'm back